In the farthest edge of the Orion cluster, where stars glittered like scattered diamonds and nebulas painted the sky in shades of violet and gold, stood the grand crystalline palace of Azolan, a city carved from living light and ancient stone, pulsing with the very heartbeat of its planet. Towering spires stretched toward the heavens, their tips glowing faintly with centuries of stored solar energy. Transparent bridges connected floating gardens where bioluminescent flowers sang gentle lullabies whenever touched by the wind. This was the home of the Velon, a peaceful yet proud alien race, known across the galaxy for their wisdom, their mastery of bioenergy, and their deep connection to emotion as a source of power. Their skin shimmered in soft shades of jade and emerald, and their long white hair, bright as fresh snow beneath twin moons, reflected the purity of their souls. At the heart of this magnificent realm lay the royal chamber, where Princess Ilara, the youngest daughter of Emperor Elian and Empress Ceres, was now caught between life and death. Ilara had always been different from her siblings, not in her appearance, for she too carried the noble Velon traits of glowing green skin and silvery white hair, but in spirit. While others spoke with quiet grace and obeyed tradition without question, she danced barefoot through palace halls, laughed too loudly during council meetings, and once even snuck aboard a cargo ship just to watch meteor showers from a forgotten moon. She believed love was stronger than politics, and compassion greater than conquest. But it was this very spirit that led her into danger. Weeks earlier, on a diplomatic mission to the volatile moon of Chiron, she had stepped between two warring factions to prevent a massacre. In doing so, she absorbed a blast of corrupted energy meant for a child, a toxin unknown to Velon science, one that slowly unraveled her life force like thread pulled from cloth. The royal physicians had tried everything, but nothing worked. Harmonic resonance therapy, soul echo alignment, even summoning the ancient tree of whispers beneath the palace. Nothing worked. Princess Ilara's breaths grew shallow, her glow dimmed, and the once vibrant soul now lay motionless, surrounded by weeping attendants and silent royalty. News spread across the galaxies faster than light. The light of Azolan is fading. Allies sent crates of healing crystals. Enemies quietly sharpened their blades, sensing weakness in the Velon Empire. And still, Ilara slipped further away. Then came the stranger. An earthling, so rare in this corner of space that most Velon had only seen humans on old star charts marked as Primitive Sector G. His name was Theo Renaer, a quiet astrophysicist turned accidental explorer after a research satellite malfunctioned and hurled him through a wormhole near Azolan's orbit. Rescued by a passing patrol, he was not treated as a prisoner, but as a curiosity. Small, pale-skinned, with untamed brown hair and eyes wide with wonder. He looked less like a hero and more like someone who had simply taken the wrong turn on the way to a coffee shop. He wore a faded hoodie, carried a notebook filled with scribbled equations, and spoke of gravity wells as though they were casual dinner topics, and yet something about him intrigued the royal family, especially Princess Ilara. Even half-conscious, she seemed to stir whenever his voice echoed nearby. No one truly knew why Theo was allowed into the sacred chamber that night. Some claimed it was Empress Ceres's desperation. Others whispered that the palace itself, an ancient sentient structure older than memory, had guided him there. Whatever the reason, Theo stood at the foot of Ilara's levitating bed. His hands trembled, his heart pounded like a war drum. He did not understand their language well, but he understood pain. He understood loss. Back on Earth, he had watched his younger sister fade from an illness no doctor could cure. He remembered the empty reassurances, the quiet defeat in every medical gaze. He had sworn that if he ever discovered a way to heal, truly heal, he would use it. Now, staring at the fading light of a princess who seemed dreamlike even in her suffering, something within him cracked open. Instinct moved where reason failed. Theo reached out. His fingers brushed her cool green hand. A collective gasp swept the chamber. Emperor Elyon, in his flowing obsidian robes woven with star-metal thread, froze in place. Empress Ceres, tears suspended in her silver eyes, held her breath. The elder princes, armored despite the peace, stiffened as one. For among the oldest laws of the Velon, written in the first tongue upon the skystones, it was said, only one bound by true feeling could awaken the dormant spark. No healer, no machine, no spell could defy death's grip, unless the dying soul was touched by someone for whom they held hidden affection. And the touch must be pure, free of greed, free of fear, free of desire. Only love, silent, unspoken, and selfless, could ignite the ancient gene code at the heart of a Velon's core. And so, when Theo's hand touched Ilara's, the impossible happened. A ripple surged through her body, like wind sweeping across water. Her chest rose, deep, full, alive. A low hum began in her bones, rising in pitch until it harmonized with the very pulse of the Azalan palace. Emerald light burst from her veins, spreading beneath her skin like roots finding new soil. Her white hair lifted as though underwater, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. Color returned to her cheeks, and with trembling lips she drew in a long, shuddering breath, the first full breath she had taken in days. "She lives," gasped the High Medic, stumbling backward in disbelief. But the chamber did not move. Every gaze locked on Theo. Because the law was clear, if a dying Velon awakened by another's touch, it meant their soul had recognized its true match. It meant the princess held hidden affection, even if she herself had never spoken it, for this strange, small human. Theo blinked, yanking his hand away as if burned. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to help." Before he could stammer further, Emperor Elyon stepped forward. His voice thundered, though it trembled at its edges. "By the laws of our ancestors and the witnessing stars, you have awakened her. You are the chosen one." "The... what?" Theo squeaked. Empress Ceres drifted gently forward, her gown shimmering like liquid moonlight. Her voice was soft, yet carried the weight of fate. "It means," she said, "that my daughter's heart has chosen you, whether she knew it or not. And now, you must marry her." Theo's jaw dropped. "Wait. What? No. I just touched her hand. That's not a proposal on Earth. We barely hug on the first date." From the balcony above came booming laughter. Prince Valor, the eldest brother, known for his roaring voice and fondness for interstellar taverns, grinned. "Ah, so the little Earthman knows romance. Good. Then he shall learn our ways. Beginning with the trial of unity." "The trial of... what now?" Theo groaned. Meanwhile, Ilara stirred. Her golden eyes fluttered open, large, almond-shaped, glowing like molten metal, and fixed instantly on Theo. For a moment there was confusion, then recognition, then something softer, warmer, a glimmer that flushed her cheeks a deeper green. "You," she whispered, her voice raw but melodic. "You stayed." Yeah," Theo mumbled, scratching the back of his neck. "Didn't know what else to do. You looked like you needed a friend." "A friend?" scoffed Prince Kalen, the stern middle brother arching a sharp eyebrow. He healed her with a touch. That's not friendship. That's destiny screaming through a megaphone. Chaos erupted. Some courtiers cheered, others protested, and the chamber of Azalan trembled with the weight of a fate no one had expected. How could a human, so fragile, so emotionally chaotic, be worthy of a Velon princess? The Minister of Galactic Purity fainted on the spot. A flock of ceremonial sky parrots panicked and burst through a stained glass window depicting the birth of light itself. Amid the uproar, Theo was swept away, gently but firmly, by two royal attendants. They stripped him of his hoodie, sprayed him with something that smelled like lavender and lightning, and dressed him in a robe woven from starlight threads. The fabric shimmered, shifting color with every flicker of his mood. Panic red, embarrassment purple, confusion yellow. Back in the healing chamber, Princess Ilara sat upright, weak but smiling. "Mother, Father, I know what the law says, but must we rush? I've only just awakened." "The law is absolute, daughter," Emperor Elian declared gravely. "To deny it is to invite imbalance. The cosmos corrected itself tonight. We cannot undo what the universe has spoken." "But I don't even know him," Ilara protested. "Yes," my soul responded, "but feelings take time. They don't simply bloom like fruit on a tree." Empress Ceres placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Perhaps, but the bond is real, and whether you wish it or not, the galaxy will see this as a union. Other kingdoms will test it. Enemies will strike. If you are to survive together, you must become one. Quickly." Ilara glanced toward the door where Theo had vanished. "He seems kind and brave, but also lost, like a baby bird that fell from the sky." "And that," Empress Ceres whispered with a faint smile, "is why you will guide him. Love is not always born in fire. Sometimes it begins in a whisper." Meanwhile, Theo was enduring what could only be described as the strangest orientation of his life. A holographic instructor named Glim, a floating three-eyed being with coiling tentacle hands, was explaining Velen wedding traditions at lightning speed. "Step 1, Glim chirped. The exchange of soul echoes performed beneath the twin moons. Step 2, the binding dance, requiring precise footwork and complete emotional transparency. Step 3, the consumption of the nectar of shared breath. Do not swallow all at once." Theo blinked, robe shifting nervously into panic red again. "Yeah, sure, easy enough." The previous groom had choked and turned blue for 6 hours. Step 4, public declaration at the Spire of Echoes. Thousands would watch and judge aura compatibility. And don't trip. The last candidate did. It caused a minor quake. Theo Renaer raised his hand. Can I opt out?" Glip beeped sadly. "Negative. Bond is active. Refusal brings exile, or worse, a shame tour on the moon of regret." "Great. Just great," Theo muttered, sinking into a levitating chair. 1 minute he was calculating dark matter density. The next he was being prepared for an alien wedding he never signed up for. But as the hours passed, something shifted. Theo began to care. Not because of laws, not because of pressure, not because everyone called him His Radiant Future Majesty, which made him want to hide under a rock. It was the stories they told about Ilara, how she had taught street children to read using star projections, how she had lived among desert nomads to learn their songs, how she had argued against war with the Draxori Dominion. "No species is evil," she had said, "only afraid." She wasn't just beautiful, she was good, and somehow, impossibly, her heart had reached for him in her final moments. That night, under the twin moons of Azolan, Theo Renaer was led to the Garden of Whispers, a secluded courtyard where flowers bloomed in silence and time itself seemed to slow. Ilara waited there, wrapped in a simple gown of silver mist, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked smaller now, not like a princess, but like a person. "You didn't have to come," she said quietly. "You didn't have to heal," he replied, stepping forward. "But you did, because of me. I owe you an explanation, or an apology, or I don't know what." She smiled faintly. "You don't owe me anything. The law says you're mine, but I don't believe in ownership, not of people." "Good," Theo exhaled, "because I'm terrible at being owned. My last goldfish staged a rebellion." Ilara laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a summer storm. For the first time since arriving on Azalan, Theo felt warmth bloom in his chest. They talked for hours. About Earth, about Azalan, about loneliness, dreams, and fears. Theo told her about watching supernovas through his telescope as a child, imagining life on other worlds. Ilara confessed she had always been fascinated by humans, how they lived such short lives yet loved so fiercely, created art from pain, reached for stars with broken tools. "You're reckless," she said, "but also hopeful. I think that's why my soul reached for you. You carry hope like a torch." "And you," Theo said softly, "carry kindness like armor." They didn't kiss, not yet. But something passed between them, understanding, possibility. High above, unseen in the palace observatory, Emperor Elyon watched through a crystal lens. "They speak like strangers," Emperor Elyon mused from the observatory, "but their auras, they're already weaving together." Empress Ceres leaned beside him. "Love doesn't need a ceremony to begin," she murmured. "It only needs two hearts willing to listen." But peace would not last. 2 nights later, alarms blared through the palace. Red pulses lit the walls. The sky outside crackled with unnatural energy. A fleet of jagged black ships, no markings, no signals, emerged from behind the third moon, moving into attack formation. The Draxori Dominion, long thought defeated, had returned, led by General Vrax, a hulking warrior with cybernetic limbs and a hatred for the Velon that burned hotter than a dying sun. "They know about the bonding," Corin said, strapping on his plasma gauntlets. "They see weakness, a human joining the royal line. They'll try to destroy her to break the prophecy." Varlin cracked his knuckles. "Then let's show them what happens when you threaten our sister." Theo Renaer, still in his shimmering robe, stood frozen in the war room. "I don't fight. I calculate. I observe. I don't shoot things." "You don't have to," Ilara said, stepping beside him, now clad in battle attire, lightweight armor infused with healing energy. "But you have something they don't. You have heart. And right now, that's the most dangerous weapon of all." Before he could protest, the palace shook. A blast hit the eastern wing, screams echoed. The invasion had begun. Through smoke and chaos, the royal family fought. Varlin dueled a Draxori captain on a floating bridge, using twin energy blades that sang with every swing. Corin hacked into the enemy comms, disrupting their formations with bursts of psychic noise. Emperor Elyon and Empress Ceres stood back to back in the throne room, unleashing waves of pure emotion energy that turned attackers to ash. But the Draxori had one goal: capture the princess, and they were willing to burn the world to do it. Theo ran through the corridors, clutching Ilara's hand, dodging falling debris and laser fire. "This is insane! We should hide!" "We can't," Ilara said. "If they take me, they'll dissect me, study the bond, try to destroy it. They fear what they don't understand. And what if they kill me?" Theo panted. "Then I die too," she said simply. "The bond goes both ways. Your life is tied to mine now." Theo stopped, stunned. "You'd die for me?" She looked at him, golden eyes blazing. "You reached for me when I was gone. You gave me back my life. Do you really think I wouldn't do the same?" Tears stung Theo's eyes, not from fear, but from awe. They reached the core chamber where the Heartstone, a massive crystal containing the collective emotions of every Velon who ever lived, pulsed with unstable energy. The Draxori were already there, planting charges. "No!" Ilara's cry tore through the chamber as General Vrax turned, his burning red eyes locking onto Theo Renaer. "So," Vrax snarled, his cybernetic limbs gleaming, "the weakling who defied fate. You think love protects you? Love is nothing against power." He raised his cannon. Theo didn't think. He moved. He stepped in front of Ilara as the blast fired. Time slowed. Heat, pain, darkness, and then light. From Ilara's hands erupted a wave of golden-green energy, merging with something else, something warm, bright, human. Together their combined auras surged into the Heartstone. The massive crystal cracked, then exploded outward in a silent burst of harmony. The Drexori warriors screamed as their weapons disintegrated, their minds overwhelmed by a flood of empathy, sorrow, and joy, emotions they had spent lifetimes suppressing. General Vrax clutched his head. "No, no! Make it stop, I feel... And then silence. Theo lay on the ground, bleeding, barely breathing. Ilara cradled him, tears falling like stars. No, not again. Not now. But then his hand twitched, her eyes widened. Slowly, impossibly, Theo opened his eyes and smiled. You healed me," he whispered. Ilara laughed through tears. Turns out the bond works both ways. Outside, dawn broke over Azalan. The enemy ships retreated. The palace, though scarred, stood strong. And in the ruins of the core chamber, two beings, one green-skinned and white-haired, the other small, pink, and utterly out of his depth, held each other, not as princess and commoner, not as alien and human, but as two souls who had found each other across the vast dark of space. The wedding hadn't happened yet, the trials hadn't been passed, but something deeper had already taken root, and somewhere, in the quiet between heartbeats, the universe smiled. Days after the attack were quiet, wrapped in a fragile peace like morning fog over Azalan's crystal lakes. The palace, though scarred by battle, hummed with renewed energy. Repair drones buzzed through shattered halls. Singing workers wove new light threads into broken arches. Children danced barefoot on restored balconies, their laughter echoing like chimes. But within the royal chambers, something deeper than reconstruction was taking place, healing of another kind. Theo still bore the wound from Vrax's blast, a jagged mark across his shoulder that pulsed faintly blue, a souvenir from alien weaponry and an even more alien miracle. The Velen healers had shaken their heads. "His body is not built for our energies," they had said. "He should not have survived." Yet survive he did, cradled in Ilara's arms, bathed in the combined glow of her power, and the mysterious bond that now tied them together. It wasn't just love. It was fusion, a merging of life forces so rare it hadn't occurred in over 10,000 cycles. The ancient scrolls called it Zwanvora, the twin pulse. When two souls, vastly different, yet perfectly aligned, touch in moments of sacrifice, their very biology begins to adapt. Scientists whispered that Theo Renaer's cells were slowly learning to absorb and reflect Velon bioenergy. He wasn't becoming one of them, but he was changing, evolving. As the twin moons rose again, casting silver shadows across the Garden of Whispers in Azalan, Theo sat beside Ilara on a bench carved from living stone, his fingers tracing the edge of his fading scar. "You know," he said softly, "back home, if someone got shot saving a princess, they'd get a medal, a parade, maybe even a bad action movie. Here," Ilara teased, nudging him with her shoulder, "you're not being stared at. You're being admired. Same thing when you're the only human on a planet of glowing green people with perfect hair," he grumbled, tugging at his messy brown locks. She reached over, smoothing them gently. "I like your hair," she said. "It looks free." He glanced at her, caught in the golden glow of her eyes. "You really mean that?" "I mean everything I say," she replied, "even when I tell you that tomorrow you must face the trial of unity." Theo groaned, tipping his head back. "Oh, come on. Can't we just sign some papers? Declare ourselves married via intergalactic email? I promise I'll send flowers every anniversary." Ilara laughed, but then grew serious. "It's not just tradition, Theo. The trial tests whether our bond is real, not just in soul, but in trust, courage, and understanding. Without it, the other kingdoms won't accept us. And without their acceptance, our peace could shatter again." He sighed, looking out over the garden where bioluminescent moths drifted between blossoms shaped like tiny galaxies. "I don't want to be a king. I don't want power or titles. I don't want to lose you." Her hand found his. Then don't think of it as becoming royalty, she said. Think of it as proving to yourself, to me, to the universe, that what happened between us wasn't an accident, that we're meant to walk this path together. He turned to her, heart pounding. And if I fail? You won't, she said simply, because I'll be there, and this time I'll be the one protecting you. The next morning, the entire planet seemed to hold its breath. The trial of unity was not held in a stadium or a courtroom, but in the shifting maze, a vast, ever-changing labyrinth buried beneath the roots of the world tree, where space bent and time stuttered. Only bonded pairs could enter, and only those whose hearts beat as one could find the center. Legend said the maze tested each couple differently, sometimes with illusions, sometimes with physical trials, always with truth. As Theo Renaer and Ilara stood at the entrance, a gaping mouth of glowing vines and whispering stone, thousands gathered on viewing platforms above, watching through shimmering holograms. Even ambassadors from distant systems tuned in, curious about the human who had defied death and law alike. Prince Varlin clapped Theo on the back so hard he nearly fell forward. "Don't die, or if you do, make it dramatic." Corin gave a rare nod. "Stay close to her. The maze preys on separation." Empress Saris smiled softly. "Trust your heart. It speaks truer than any map." And then the vines parted. Theo Renaer and Ilara stepped inside. At first, the maze was silent. Walls of pulsating crystal, paths that forked and vanished like dreams. Then the air shimmered. Suddenly, Theo was no longer in the maze. He stood in his old apartment on Earth, rain tapping against the window. His sister Mira sat on the couch, smiling, healthy, alive, just as she had been before the illness took her. "You came back," she said, hugging him. "I knew you'd fix it. You always said you'd find a cure among the stars." Tears filled Theo's eyes. He hadn't seen her in years, hadn't felt her in forever. "Mira, I missed you so much." "Then stay," she whispered. "Forget the aliens, forget the princess. Come home." Behind him a voice, Ilara's, called softly, "Theo." But Mira tightened her grip. "She's not real to you. Not yet. I am. I'm your past. I'm your blood. Don't leave me again." Theo trembled. This was his deepest wound, his greatest regret, the guilt of not being able to save her, and the maze knew it. Then he looked down at his hand. There, faint but glowing, was a thin emerald thread wrapped around his wrist, the same color as Ilara's skin. A bond marker placed there the night she healed him. He closed his eyes. "I loved you," he whispered to the vision. "I will always love you, but I can't live in the past, and she's my future." The illusion shattered. He gasped back into the maze, clutching Ilara's hand, tears streaming down his face. She held him tightly. "I saw it too," she murmured. "My greatest fear, that you would choose your world over mine, that you'd wake up and realize I was just an adventure." He wiped his eyes, then cupped her face. "You're not an adventure. You're the reason I finally understand what home means." They moved forward. The next trial came swiftly. The floor vanished. They fell into darkness, into cold, into silence. Then light returned. They stood on a barren moon floating in the void. Above them, Azolan burned, not with beauty, but with fire. Cities collapsed. The palace crumbled. Explosions lit the atmosphere like dying stars. A voice boomed, General Vrax's. "You failed. Your bond brought only war. Look what your love has done." Theo turned to Ilara. "No, this isn't real." But she was already stepping away. "Maybe it is. Maybe we were foolish. Maybe peace was never possible." "No," Theo shouted. "You don't get to take her from me. You don't get to take us." He ran to her, grabbing her hand. "Listen to me. I don't care if the whole galaxy burns. As long as you're alive, as long as we're together, there's hope. I don't need a perfect world. I just need you." The moment the words left his lips, the illusion cracked. The burning planet froze, then reversed. Buildings rebuilt themselves. Light returned. The stars realigned, and the final door appeared. Beyond it lay the Heart Grove, a circular chamber where the air itself shimmered with emotion. In the center floated two crystals, one green gold, one pale pink, spinning slowly toward each other. "This is it," Alara whispered. "The exchange of soul echoes. We must speak our truths, not to the world but to each other, and the crystals will decide." Theo swallowed hard. "What if I say the wrong thing?" "There are no wrong things here," she said. "Only honesty." They stepped forward. The crystals glowed brighter. Alara spoke first. "Theo Renaer, when I first saw you I thought you were ridiculous, small, loud, wearing that strange fabric sack on your head. But then I watched you. How you asked questions like they mattered, how you treated servants like equals, how you cried when you heard of my pain. No Velon prince has ever looked at me like that. Like I was seen, not as a symbol, not as a duty, but as a person. I didn't choose you because of fate. I chose you because you made me feel human." Theo blinked, stunned. Then he took a breath. "Alara, I came here by accident, but staying, that was a choice. Every second since I touched your hand, I've been choosing you. I don't understand half the things in this world. I can't dance your dances or drink your nectar without gagging, but I know this. You make me brave. You make me want to be better. On Earth, I was alone. Here with you, I'm not just part of something bigger. I'm part of something real. I don't need a title. I don't need a crown. I just need to wake up every day knowing you're beside me. So whatever comes next, marriage, war, children, galactic politics, I'm yours. All of me." The crystals surged. Light exploded outward. The ground trembled. The walls sang. The very air vibrated with harmony. Above in the viewing galleries the crowd erupted in cheers. The High Magician fainted again. Prince Varlan started a chant. "Renaer! Renaer! Renaer!" which Corin reluctantly joined after realizing it was spreading. The bond was confirmed. The trial was passed. 2 days later, beneath the twin moons and a sky painted with comet trails, Theo and Alara stood atop the Spire of Voices, hands clasped, hearts open. The binding dance was performed. Awkward at first, Theo stepped on her foot twice, but then their movements grew graceful, guided by instinct. The nectar of shared breath was sipped. Theo nearly choked, but Alara laughed and kissed his cheek, calming him. And then, before the entire realm, they exchanged vows, not written by priests but spoken from memory. "I choose you," Theo said. "Not because the stars say so, but because my soul knows you." "And I choose you," Alara replied. "Not despite your differences, but because of them. You are my surprise, my joy, my unexpected miracle." As the final words echoed, the spire flared with light. Their auras merged into one radiant beam that shot into the heavens, visible across continents, witnessed by millions. The union was complete. But life, as Theo quickly learned, did not end with a wedding. Now known across the galaxy as the Human King and the Green Flame Queen, Theo and Alara faced new challenges. Diplomats questioned the stability of a human-Velen alliance. Radical factions called for Theo's removal. And when a delegation from the ice planet of Garal arrived, demanding proof of his worthiness, Theo responded not with words, but with action. Using Velon energy principles combined with Earth engineering, he invented a climate-stabilizing device that saved their dying world in just 3 days. "You're terrible at dancing," Alara teased one evening as they floated together in their private sky pool. "But you're amazing at saving planets." "Trade skills," Theo grinned, pulling her closer. "You handle the emotional unity. I'll handle the near-apocalyptic disasters." She rested her head against his chest. "Promise me something. Anything. Never stop being confused. Never stop asking questions. That's what I fell in love with." He kissed her forehead. "Only if you promise to keep laughing at my jokes, even the bad ones." "I promise," she whispered. And as the twin moons watched and the stars blinked in quiet approval, two hearts, so different, so far apart, beat as one. They were no longer ruler and subject, alien and human, but partners, lovers, the beginning of something no prophecy had foreseen. Beneath a sky alive with swirling auroras and the soft hum of Azolan's eternal song crystals, Theo and Alara were wed in full ceremony. Their hands were bound not by chains of law or tradition, but by ribbons woven from starlight and whispered promises. The spire of voices rang with cheers that echoed across continents. Even the ancient palace, sentient and wise, pulsed gently as if sighing in contentment. Birds made of light spiraled into the heavens, scattering petals that bloomed mid-air. And for the first time in centuries, the usually stoic council of elders wept openly, touched by the purity of a love that had crossed species, space, and silence. In the years that followed, peace did not simply return to Azolan. It began to flourish in ways the galaxy had never imagined. It flourished. Theo, once the nervous earthling who tripped over his own feet during royal processions, grew into his role not as a conqueror or a ruler, but as a bridge. He opened the Royal Academy of Cross-Culture Understanding, where Velon children learned about Earth's oceans and music, while human scientists came to study bioenergy and emotional resonance. And yet, Theo never lost his awkward charm. He still spilled nectar on his robes. He still mispronounced ceremonial phrases, once accidentally declaring a holiday in honor of the Great Potato. But somehow, that only made people love him more. He wasn't perfect. He was real, and in a galaxy full of polished masks and political lies, realness became revolutionary. Alara, radiant and strong, ruled beside him not as a figurehead but as a leader whose compassion reshaped diplomacy. She ended centuries-old feuds with neighboring systems not through force, but by inviting rival leaders to share meals, trade stories, and sit in silence beneath the sacred world tree. "You cannot hate someone," she often said, "once you've heard their sorrow." Her golden eyes, once clouded with illness, now sparkled with purpose, wisdom, and quiet joy. And at the center of it all, their love only grew deeper with every passing season. They built a home beyond the palace walls, nestled in the valley of singing winds, where crystal flowers chimed in the breeze, and rivers glowed softly under the night sky. There, among gardens designed by Theo with winding Earth-style paths, and filled by Alara with floating alien blossoms, they welcomed their children. Not one, not two, but 7, each more extraordinary than the last. The first was Kira, born with her mother's white hair and her father's bright, curious eyes. She could sense emotions like a true Velon, yet solved problems with Theo's logical mind, often repairing broken hovercarts before breakfast. Then came Jalin, a wild-hearted boy with green-tinted skin and a laugh so loud it startled the palace parrots. He was always sneaking off to explore caves or ride sky lizards. Next came the twins, Mira, named in quiet honor of Theo's sister, gentle and musical, her voice capable of calming storms, and Dax, a mischievous inventor who once transformed the throne room into a zero-gravity bubble chamber just to see what would happen. After them came little Ia, born during a rare solar eclipse, whose touch carried faint healing energy, stronger than Theo's, softer than Alara's, as though nature itself was still experimenting with their blended bloodlines. Then there was Tove, the quiet observer, who rarely spoke but saw everything, sketching stars and souls alike in notebooks that shimmered when touched. And finally, the youngest, Nomi, a whirlwind of energy with pink-tinted cheeks and white-green curls. By age 3, she boldly declared she would marry the moon, and spent every night climbing the tallest trees, determined to reach it. Their home buzzed with laughter, chaos, and love. There were glowing paint smudges on the walls, half-built robots cluttering the dining hall, and pets of questionable origin, including a 6-legged fox cat named Blip, who ate socks and sang opera at dawn. Yes, there were arguments, over bedtime, over chores, over who got to ride the solar glider first. But every evening ended the same way, all of them curled together in the living dome, watching the twin moons rise while Theo told Earth fairy tales and Ilara added magical twists that made the children gasp and giggle.